The first thing my wife did at the couple's retreat was laugh at me, out loud, while a room full of strangers watched. Not a nervous laugh. Not an awkward chuckle. A clean, confident laugh, like she'd just landed a punchline she'd been rehearsing for months. And in that moment, sitting in a circle of folding chairs under soft lighting and fake inspirational quotes, I realized something chilling. She hadn't brought me here to save our marriage. She'd brought me here to finish a performance. Before we go any further, let me say this: if you've ever felt blindsided by someone you trusted, hit like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Especially if you're over 50 and thought you'd already seen everything life could throw at you. Trust me, this story is for you. My name is Mark. I was married to a woman named Lauren for 15 years. To the outside world, she was charming, articulate, endlessly patient. The kind of woman people described as a saint for putting up with a man like me. That was her favorite part, how others saw her. At home, though, things were different. At home, every conversation was a review. Every silence was evidence. Every disagreement ended with me apologizing for things I didn't fully understand. The retreat had been her idea. She presented it calmly, gently, the way someone does when they already know the answer. "We need help," she said one night over dinner, her tone smooth and reasonable. "Or this marriage isn't going to survive." What she meant was simpler: I was broken, and she wanted witnesses. The place was called Pine Ridge Renewal Center, perched on a hillside like it was above ordinary human messiness. Floor-to-ceiling windows. Neutral colors. Quotes about growth painted on reclaimed wood. We arrived with identical suitcases and completely different expectations. I still believed effort mattered. She believed presentation mattered more. Within an hour, we were in our first group session. 12 couples. 1 therapist. Her name was Dana Collins, early 40s, sharp eyes, calm voice. The kind of professional who didn't fill silence just to make people comfortable. She let it stretch. Let it work. When it was Lauren's turn to speak, she didn't hesitate. "The issue," she said, folding her hands like she was about to deliver bad news with grace, "is that Mark doesn't listen. I try to share my feelings, and he just shuts down." She sighed softly, the kind of sigh that invites sympathy. I felt every head in the circle tilt slightly toward her. Dana turned to me. "How do you experience those moments?" she asked. That I opened my mouth, and Lauren laughed. Actually laughed. "He probably doesn't even remember the conversations," she said. "That's how checked out he is." The room went quiet. Not the comfortable kind. The kind that makes your chest tighten. I kept my voice steady. I remember every conversation where I'm told everything I do wrong for 20 minutes straight, then asked why I don't want to talk more. Lauren leaned forward, energized. "See? This is exactly what I mean. He takes everything as criticism instead of trying to understand my perspective." Dana wrote something down. Slowly. "Can you give a specific example?" she asked. Lauren's eyes lit up. She loved examples. "Just last week, I tried to talk about how his lack of ambition affects our future. Instead of having a mature discussion, he got defensive and walked away. I remembered that night perfectly. I'd worked a 12-hour shift. She'd cornered me with a speech about how embarrassed she felt when her friends asked what I did for a living. When I finally said I was tired, she accused me of avoiding adulthood. "I didn't walk away," I said. "I went to bed. I was exhausted." "Oh, here we go," she replied, rolling her eyes. "Everything is always about how hard your life is." Something shifted then. Not loudly. Not dramatically. Just enough for me to notice Dana wasn't nodding. She was watching. Closely. And for the first time in a long while, I felt a strange, unfamiliar sensation, like maybe the story wasn't being accepted at face value. The session ended with assigned exercises and polite smiles. As we walked back to our room, Lauren was practically glowing. "That went really well," she said. "I think Dana understands what I've been dealing with." That night, lying beside her with a wall of pillows between us, I stared at the ceiling replaying every word. And one thought kept circling my mind, steady and unsettling: this wasn't my living room anymore. And Lauren wasn't in control of the narrative the way she thought she was. I woke up the next morning before the alarm, staring at the ceiling of a room that felt too quiet for what was simmering underneath it. Lauren was already awake, scrolling through her phone with the calm focus of someone preparing for battle. She didn't look at me. She didn't need to. Silence had become one of her most effective tools. It said, "You're already on trial, and I'm confident in the verdict." Downstairs, the dining hall buzzed with forced cheer. Soft music, clinking silverware, couples smiling too hard over scrambled eggs and coffee. Lauren slipped effortlessly into the room, greeting people as if she were hosting. She laughed easily, leaned in close to other women, traded knowing looks when someone mentioned a difficult husband. I watched from a distance, realizing how practiced she was at this. She wasn't just telling a story. She was building a coalition. This was new territory for me. At home, disagreements happened behind closed doors. Here, everything was public. Observed. Documented. And that made Lauren sharper, more polished. She dressed like she was attending a conference: tailored sweater, light makeup, the perfect balance of vulnerable and strong. She wanted to look like the woman who had tried everything. The morning session split us into smaller groups. 4 couples each. As soon as we sat down, Lauren took charge. "Why don't we share what brought us here?" she said brightly, as if this were a networking event. "I really believe in honest communication." The irony nearly made me laugh. She went first, of course. She talked about emotional distance. About trying to grow together while dragging someone who resisted change. The other women nodded. One chimed in about feeling alone in her marriage. Lauren reached over and squeezed her hand, the picture of empathy. When it was my turn, Lauren leaned forward, eyes wide with encouragement. "Please," she said, sweetly. "I really want you to feel heard." I took a breath. "I'm here because my wife told me our marriage would end if I didn't come," I said. "She believes I'm the problem, and she wants that confirmed." The air shifted. Lauren's smile twitched. "Just for a second, there it is," she said quickly, turning to the group. "He always makes me the villain." "What behavior are you talking about?" I asked, keeping my voice calm. "The part where I work 50 hours a week and come home to a list of my failures? Or the part where nothing I do counts unless it meets your approval?" One of the other husbands looked up. Really looked. "That sounds familiar," he said quietly. Lauren laughed, but it came out tight. "You're being dramatic." "Am I?" I replied. "Or am I finally saying out loud what usually stays private?" For the first time, she didn't have the room entirely on her side. Not against her, but not unquestioningly with her either. And she felt it. Her posture stiffened. Her words came faster. She talked about standards. About motivation. About not settling. Dana drifted over then, pulling up a chair. She listened. Asked questions. simple ones, neutral ones. And somehow, those were the hardest. How do suggestions usually come up in your relationship? She asked. Lauren answered smoothly. Too smoothly. I interrupted. She makes lists, I said. Actual lists. With deadlines. Lauren denied it instantly. I pulled out my phone. Dana held out her hand. The look on Lauren's face in that moment wasn't anger. It was calculation failing. Dana studied the screen carefully. Didn't react. Just nodded. This is very detailed, she said. How did creating this make you feel? Lauren stumbled. She talked about clarity. About needs. Dana read one line aloud, about compliments needing variety and frequency, and paused. These read less like requests, she said gently, and more like performance requirements. Silence fell again. Heavy. Unavoidable. After the session, Lauren didn't speak to me. Not on the walk back. Not at lunch. She retreated inward, reorganizing, recalibrating. I could almost hear the gears turning. This wasn't how it was supposed to go, and for the first time since we arrived, I felt something unfamiliar settle in my chest, not hope exactly, but awareness. Whatever this weekend was going to become, it wasn't going to follow the script Lauren had written. And neither was I. By the time the private session was scheduled that afternoon, Lauren had transformed again. The silent withdrawal was gone, replaced by brisk efficiency. She straightened papers that didn't need straightening, reapplied lipstick she didn't need, and rehearsed expressions in the mirror like a seasoned attorney preparing for closing arguments. Every movement said the same thing: regroup, regain control. Today we're being honest, she announced as we walked to Dana's office. I'm done sugarcoating things. Her version of honesty had always been selective. It focused sharply outward. The room was smaller than the group spaces, intentionally intimate. 2 chairs angled toward Dana, a small table, soft lighting. Lauren sat closer to the therapist without hesitation, claiming proximity the way she claimed authority. Dana didn't comment. She rarely did. She just observed. I want to talk about patterns, Dana began. There seems to be a recurring disconnect between intention and impact. Lauren nodded vigorously. Exactly. I try to help Mark grow, and he experiences it as an attack. What does helping look like to you? Dana asked. Lauren launched in. Books she'd suggested. Conversations she'd initiated. Efforts she'd made. I even left some reading on his nightstand, she said, smiling faintly. Resources about emotional intelligence and being a better partner. With a note, I added quietly. Asking me to read them so we could finally have mature conversations. Dana's pen paused. How did that land with you? She asked me like I was being evaluated, I said. Not loved. Lauren bristled. That's not fair. Fairness isn't the question, Dana replied calmly. Impact is. I mentioned the lists. The printed ones. The timelines. Lauren denied it again, reflexively. I opened my phone. Dana asked to see it.as she read. Something changed, not in her expression, but in the room itself. The air felt heavier. More grounded. She read silently for a long moment. These are very specific, Dana said. And very prescriptive. They're goals, Lauren said quickly. Healthy relationships have goals. Goals usually apply to shared outcomes, Dana replied. These apply to one person's behavior. Lauren crossed her arms. So I'm not allowed to have needs? What effort do you put in? I asked. Before I could stop myself, Lauren looked genuinely startled. As if the question hadn't occurred to her. I'm always trying, she said. I'm constantly thinking about how to improve us. You're constantly thinking about how I should change, I corrected. The words hung there. Dana didn't rush to fill the silence. Lauren shifted strategies. She listed my supposed flaws: lack of ambition, resistance, emotional distance. It was a familiar speech, delivered with practiced concern. But here, under steady questioning, it sounded different. Less like observation. More like indictment. Dana asked when it had started. I thought back to when comparisons crept in. To comments about other men. To the way nothing I did felt original or enough. When I said it aloud, Lauren protested weakly, her certainty thinning. Dana asked about a specific incident involving flowers. Lauren explained her belief in sincerity. Dana asked how sincerity was measured. Lauren didn't answer. We're circling something important, Dana said eventually. But I want you both to sit with one question tonight. She looked at both of us. What would it look like if responsibility for this dynamic were shared? Lauren didn't speak on the walk back. Not once. The confidence she'd carried all weekend was gone, replaced by tension that crackled just under the surface. She was recalculating again. I could feel it. That evening, the room felt smaller. Closer. She lay awake, muttering about bias, about misunderstandings. I lay still, realizing something quietly profound. For the first time in a very long time, I wasn't scrambling to fix things. I wasn't apologizing. I was just watching, and whatever was coming next, I knew one thing with certainty: I wasn't going to disappear inside it the way I used to. Sunday morning felt heavier than the rest, like the air itself was resisting movement. Lauren barely slept. I could hear her shifting, sighing, whispering to herself in fragments that sounded like strategy more than reflection. By the time she got dressed, she had rebuilt her composure piece by piece. Calm face. Controlled voice. The version of her that knew how to command a room was back. We need to be very clear today, she said, smoothing her jacket. Dana seems confused. I'm going to help her understand what's really going on. The final group session was optional, but Lauren insisted. She needed the room. The audience. She took a seat near the center, posture open, expression earnest. When Dana asked if anyone wanted to share insights from their private sessions, Lauren's hand went up immediately. I had a big realization, she began, voice steady and sincere. I've been carrying a lot in this marriage. And I see now how much Mark struggles with accountability. A few heads nodded. Some out of habit. Some out of politeness. Even when I bring specific examples, she continued, he turns it around and makes me feel like I'm attacking him. Dana tilted her head slightly. Can you give an example? Lauren smiled, confident. Intimacy, she said. I've tried to explain how his emotional distance affects our connection. Instead of hearing me, he accuses me of being critical. The room went still. People looked away. Shoes became fascinating. This wasn't a line you crossed lightly. Dana didn't react immediately. How do you define emotional availability? She asked. Lauren launched into a detailed explanation, how she felt unseen, how effort felt mechanical, how she was trying to save something precious. She spoke fluently, passionately, painting herself as patient and wounded. When she finished, Dana turned to me. How do you experience intimacy in your relationship? Lauren leaned back, satisfied. She expected silence. or fumbling that I looked at Dana. It's hard to be emotionally present when affection is used as leverage, I said calmly. When closeness is withheld as punishment and offered as reward, it stops feeling like connection and starts feeling transactional. Lauren's expression froze. That's not what I do, she said sharply. You told me last month you couldn't be close with someone who wasn't working on themselves, I replied. Then you gave me a timeline. No one spoke. The room felt suspended. That sounds isolating, Dana said quietly. The acknowledgement landed harder than anything else that weekend. Not agreement. Just recognition, Lauren recovered quickly. I'm trying to help us grow, she said. If that's wrong, then I don't know what's expected of me. I want my wife back, I said, surprising myself with the steadiness of my voice. Not a supervisor. Lauren laughed nervously. I never stopped being your wife. Dana watched us both. When was the last time you enjoyed each other without an agenda to fix something? Silence stretched. Lauren opened her mouth, closed it. Tried again. Nothing came. I can't remember, I said. The color drained from her face. Dana nodded slowly. That matters. Something in Lauren snapped then. Cornered, exposed, she reached for cruelty like a lifeline. She spoke fast, sharp, publicly crossing a line that couldn't be uncrossed. The room reacted instantly, gasps, stiff bodies, eyes wide. Even the people who'd supported her shifted away. Dana's voice cut through it. Firm. Unmistakable. That was deeply harmful. Lauren tried to backpedal, blaming frustration, stress, misunderstanding. But the moment had passed. The mask had cracked too far. Dana turned to me. Do you still see value in this partnership? She asked, the question hit with quiet force. Not what could be fixed. Not what I would work on. Value. I looked at Lauren, not the woman I married, not the woman she showed the world, but the one who had just chosen humiliation over honesty. The answer formed easily, but what happened next belonged to a different chapter entirely. The word came out of my mouth without hesitation. Calm. Certain. No, I didn't raise my voice. I didn't soften it either. I don't see value in being married to someone who thinks public humiliation is an acceptable tool. The room stayed frozen, like everyone needed a second to recalibrate reality. Lauren stared at me as if I'd spoken a foreign language. She was waiting for the correction, the backpedal, the apology that always followed. It didn't come. Dana didn't rush in to fix it. She simply nodded, once. That single motion felt like the final click of a lock opening. Lauren stood abruptly, chair scraping loud against the floor, muttering something about betrayal and bias as she stormed out. No one followed her. That detail mattered more than anything else. Dana approached me as the session dissolved around us. What you did took courage, she said quietly. No drama. No praise. Just truth. I nodded, unsure how to respond, because for the first time in years, my mind was clear. Painful, yes, but clear. Back in the room, the explosion came fast. Lauren paced like a trapped animal, fury spilling out now that the audience was gone. She accused me of ruining everything, of turning people against her, of choosing a stranger over my own wife. I didn't argue. I didn't defend. I simply watched, recognizing the pattern with brutal clarity. When she crossed the line, when anger turned sharp and threatening, I didn't shrink. I didn't negotiate. I opened the door. Dana stood there with staff. The aftermath spoke for itself. No explanations needed. The drive home was silent. Not the tense silence we'd mastered over the years, but something heavier. Final. When we pulled into the driveway, I knew exactly what I was going to say. And when I said it, when I told her I was done, there was no anger in my voice. Just resolve. She tried everything. Minimizing. Blaming. Softening. Threatening. Promising. None of it landed. The truth was too solid now. I wasn't walking away in a burst of emotion. I was stepping forward with clarity I should have had years earlier. She left that night. The house felt strange without her energy filling every corner. Quiet. Still. And in that stillness, something unexpected happened. I felt peace. Real peace. Not relief from conflict, but the absence of fear. No more measuring my words. No more bracing for critique. No more trying to earn affection by changing myself into someone unrecognizable. The divorce paperwork came later. The noise came later. But the decision, that was done. Final. And it wasn't tragedy. It was freedom. If this story resonated with you, if you've ever questioned your worth inside a relationship, do me a favor. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Leave a comment and tell me what part hit closest to home. Your voice matters more than you think. And I'll see you in the next story.